Growing up, I was fortunate enough to have two fantastic examples of positive, thoughtful masculinity. One was my dad, who drove a truck, and the other was Optimus Prime, who was a truck. Always loved Transformers. Something about being able to take them down off the shelf and sort of fiddle around with them, convert them from robot to alt mode and back again, helped soothe me. It's kind of zen, almost like meditation. But then I got older, my toys were lost or broken, and for a lot of years it just wasn't a part of my life. Until about 3 Christmases ago, my mom bought me a small knockoff of Masterpiece Optimus Prime. She also got one in Ultra Magnus colors and another in Nemesis Prime colors. Never even occurred to me that Optimus Prime might also be listening to Some Girls Wonder by mistake when he was home alone. And so since then, when I get a chance and I find a cool one, or even a not cool one, I pick it up. It just makes me happy, you know? And since happiness is better when you share it, I thought I'd share it with y'all. So here they are, right inside of you, me, and the 2 Cthulhus lurking in the distance, my black and teal bad boys. We'll start with the easiest one. I actually repainted this. It was a Legends class Optimus Prime. The transformation on this guy isn't too difficult, and I feel like I did all right with the paint job, despite the fact that I didn't have an airbrush at the time and did it all by hand. But I wanted to be sure he could still transform, which is easy enough to do. Do the classic Optimus, fold the legs down, pop the arms out of the side. That's a move we're gonna see a bunch of times in this video. Separate the chest windows. Not every Optimus does this, but this little fella does. And that's about it, barring a weird 360 spin that we do with the upper body here to sort of move his junk back to his trunk. And there we go. My little Legends class Nemesis Prime. Or Scourge, or whoever. I'm sure any Transformers fans in the comments will be sure to tell me how wrong I am. But fun fact, I care less about the character than I do about the cool color scheme. And so there's our robot. I still feel pretty good about the paint job on this one. Could have turned out a lot worse. And of course, if I was actually a skilled YouTube toy reviewer, I'd be able to get this damn thing to focus. But I'm not, so enjoy these sort of mid-range shots that you get, because the camera work's not gonna get a whole lot better from here. Moving right along, we come to the guy that started this whole thing, this little KBB knockoff MP10. It's not really much of an exaggeration for me to say that when I first saw MP10, I was kind of overcome with joy. I mean, this was the Optimus Prime I always wished I had as a kid instead of the janky G1 Prime. Get me wrong, I was plenty glad to have him at the time, but then I lost his hands and whatever. So this guy, again, it's a couple extra steps. We start down at the legs, and with most of these, you're gonna see a pretty similar process. Cover up those wheels, which is a nice touch. Open up his feet there, and other than pulling these legs down on the sliding rails, which I'm struggling to do, that's basically it for the legs. The top half of the transformation is a little bit more fiddly while still being pretty close to that old G1 Optimus transformation. There's a couple extra bits you gotta move around, but we're gonna get those arms to swing out just like we used to back in 1989. There we go. Do the same thing on the other side, and we're almost home. Of course, it helps if you don't have giant Wreck-It Ralph hands, or you can focus the camera. Do a little bit of the Optimus waist twist here, and now this is kind of neat. You open up the chest windows, flip out the head, and then all of that folds in, and you can see your little matrix of leadership. Close that back up. Not a big deal. Now, one of my favorite bits is how these wheel well sections sort of rotate around and form a much better silhouette than the incredibly square-waisted Optimus that I had in my childhood. It's really helps the look of the figure. Let's sort of tighten that up a little bit, and let's flip out his hands. Now, 10-year-old me would have loved a feature like this, because After week 2, my Optimus Prime's hands ended up in the yard somewhere, maybe eaten by the dog. Never saw him again, and as a result, I had to make up really complex storylines where Optimus lost his hands, generally in a duel with Darth Vader, possibly even whilst fighting Cobra. I was a weird kid, man, and the storylines I made up would get pretty complex. I remember one time the reason Optimus had no hands was because of a bad case of rabies that was running through my sister's My Little Pony collection like wildfire. Ooh, just a little bit of fiddling here, make sure everything's lined up and looking all right. Here we go. My little Chinese knockoff Black Convoy. I love this guy, man. He's just a damn fine looking figure. And I know, a lot of Transformers fans get all up in arms about KOs and the questionable legality of it all, but every corporation is horrible and none of them are your friends, and they're all out to exploit you. So I'm kind of okay with it. Oh, there he is, alternate faceplate, blood red windows and all. And that brings us to another Chinese knockoff, the Bumblebee Movie Masterpiece Prime. I really dig this truck mode. Like, I've spent a lot of time around 18-wheelers in my life, and the back end of this truck is fantastic. I mean, the rest of them just sort of have his legs there, but this is as close as you're gonna get to the actual rear of a semi. Of course, recreating the back end of that truck comes with a price, as this guy's legs are by far the most complicated of any of these figures. A lot of panels to unflip, a lot of bits to spin around and move around, and my big old hands don't help any. And of course, if I had any of it on camera, you'd be able to see what I'm talking about. But maybe I'll get my life together. The feet in particular give me issues, as I can never remember which way to fold them out properly, and then even when I do, they kind of don't line up with the legs the right way, or the way I think they should. And, you know, probably it's an operator malfunction issue, but again, could be something to do with tolerances. This is a Chinese knockoff I got on eBay. After a little bit of fiddling and reminding myself what goes where, you can see the legs kind of start to come together here, and they're really not bad looking. They're not as solid as the others, and you know, that might be an issue as time goes on and joints loosen, but for now, they're still pretty solid. Even with all those extra steps, you can still see how we're just doing kind of a standard Optimus thing. And we tuck these gas tanks away here in the back. That's pretty neat. I like that. I have done some customization work on this guy, sort of picked out some things in silver pen. As we move up to the top, things get a lot more complicated. In fact, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to transform this one by memory. But we still do the old classic Optimus arm flip, this time just flipping in the side windows to make sort of forearm kibble. That doesn't look particularly great, but it's good enough. The fun bit, because once you get his head moved out and sort of things moved around, the whole upper section of the cab's going to do this 360 spin, and the problem is I can never quite remember which piece it is that has to spin 360, and also I generally forget to fold in something to give me enough clearance to get it to go past. Now, as you can see, those little silver sections beneath the windows, those totally need to be folded in. But nope, I'm just gonna keep trying to make it work. Eventually, I'll catch on. If nothing else, you guys can watch these videos and maybe feel good about how much better you are at playing with your Transformers than I am. Seriously, if you're angling for a step-by-step instructional video, you should probably be on MGO's channel, not here watching my big-ass hand block 3/4 of the frame. And truth be told, hopefully you're not here for clever wordplay or fun skits either, because you'd be better off hanging out with Thew or Jobby the Hong. I'm just playing with some Transformers. In any case, we get the head up, we get the arms down and tucked away, and these tires, they do a neat thing where they sort of fold in here underneath the backpack. You'd be able to see it better, but I'm bad at this. And there we go. The backpack cleans up pretty well. You know, this movie masterpiece figure is really pretty nice. It appears to me as I'm doing this voiceover that this is not in fact a movie masterpiece. This is the studio series, Bumblebee, Optimus Prime. I don't have movie masterpiece money over here, all right? I just don't. We're keeping it low ranked. I mean, why do you think I have so many Chinese knockoffs? One thing watching me fumble finger and try to force my way through transforming a $35 action figure. If I had a hold of one of those $200 movie masterpiece monstrosities, just abject terror the whole time. In any case, we've got this Studio Series guy cleaned up and looking sharp. You notice we've dumped the blood red windows for a pinker tint, which I personally prefer. And with all the mechanical detail, he looks just as good as the knockoff MP10, if a little bit shorter and squatter. And that brings us to this guy. This is my third-party figure. I'm not sure what company released this guy or what the actual figure's called. I got him off of a guy on Facebook through a sort of trading group. Free to let me know in the comments if you know what he's called. But he's really neat. He's a more Cybertronian truck mode as opposed to an Earth mode Prime like my others. And the transformation's a little bit complicated. Third-party figures tend to be more complicated than mainline stuff, but this guy's really not too bad once you get used to it. We're going to fold down those side windows and form arm kibble that reminds me a little bit of what's going on with the Studio Series Prime. And then, of course, you do your swing out of the arms like every Optimus Prime ever. And get those organized and straightened out. Twist around at the top. Again, kind of reminiscent of that Studio Series. Flip out the head. The back does not go up yet. And this part gives me a little bit of trouble. I can never seem to get these wheel sections folded up properly first go. Maybe it's a tolerance issue, or maybe again, I'm just not very good at this. So I'll skip that for now. Go ahead and fold these legs down and these feet. These feet are wild. They're sort of in two pieces with the wheel in the center, and you have to split them and get this small tab to fold down to work as a heel spur. And I can never manage it first go, but you open it up like that, fold that down. That should bring the, nope, see, I've got it wrong. I need to move that forward, fold the heel spur back. There we go. Of course, I didn't catch it on camera, but now we've got something like a foot. Make sure we've got it on the other side, and if we did, it was totally an accident. But starting to come together now. Eventually, I'm going to have to move back up and face those wheel sections that are vexing me. Other thing I really like about this particular figure is he's got a sort of anime vibe compared to the other Primes that I have. Guy is all leg. He's like a Gundam. But once I can fiddle with these bits and get them properly pushed in, see, now I'm starting to get it. I get that side up there. There we go. Now, this other side always gives me a little bit more trouble, and that's for sure a tolerance issue. Like, I remember how it's supposed to go, but it's always just a little tight. But we'll get there. In the meantime, let me block all your view of everything with my big Wreck-It Ralph hands. There we are. It's folded up pretty nicely. Now we just sort of collapse the body down in on itself. Make sure to do that off camera. You don't want to give away all your secrets. Spin him around. Let's straighten everything up. And take a look at him. Well, I say that, but the back's giving me issues. See, I don't yet realize that I've got him slightly mistransformed and the upper body isn't down as far as it needs to be. And so that's not clipping into place like it should. But I'm going to keep jamming on it like an absolute caveman. Forget it. I'll flip out the hands. I know how to do that. I can flip out hands all right. Flip up these little side pieces. And we're almost there. We're almost there. It really would have been great had I caught any of this on camera. But since I didn't, I hope you guys enjoy watching me fumble around while my big old mitts just hog up the whole screen. Get that arm tabbed in properly. And I think we're just about there. Yeah, that's got him. I'll fix him up off camera here in a second. In just a second. I mean, right now I'm going to fiddle with it on camera a bit more. Hey, Now what I'm trying to do is put his little smokestacks on, not realizing that I'm going to need to take one off again here in just a second, because the sort of wind vane that sits atop the truck transforms into a cannon, which is a super neat gimmick and a good use of weapon storage. But guess whose fingers aren't going to be small enough to push this damn cannon out? That's right, me. See, there's a bit there, but can I grab it? Nope. Just keep trying, Jim. Keep trying to jam your giant ass finger in that little bitty square hole, goofball. Distance may be a virtue, but damn it, I need help. So let's take this little smokestack off, and we'll use that to push the barrel of the gun down. And hopefully that'll be enough to do the trick. Oh, I think we've got it worked out now, or at least close enough. And after a little bit of work to get him standing, all right, yeah. Now we just have to fold this bit out, which I think I can manage without a tool, though it probably would have been smarter to keep that smokestack around. But there we go. And then just pull it forward, and it sort of folds into a good approximation of Prime's ion blaster. I know that this wind vane into gun transformation gimmick was lifted from an actual mainline release, but damned if I know which one. All I know is that it's pretty neat. I know enough about Transformers to sound like an expert to someone who doesn't know anything about Transformers, but I'm no lore goblin. I like playing with these things, you know? And they're cool looking. One of my favorite things about this particular Prime is how posable he is. It's almost hard for me to believe that he transforms. I mean, he can stand on one leg and touch his toe. None of the others even come close. He just blows them away. I don't know what sort of dark sorcery went into making this guy, but it's really impressive. And that brings us to the newest edition, the Velocitron Speedia 500 Black Convoy, which was a Walmart exclusive. Now, it kind of suffers the same issue as every Prime that comes with a trailer, in that they want the trailer to transform, but it never really transforms into anything good. It is nice for weapon storage, but oh look, generic battle station number whatever. Same as all the other ones. Still, it's not a bad little accessory, and that tiny Prime over there would probably look pretty good chilling on it. Maybe we'll find out later. I do like the sort of pearlescent pink plastic that the weapons have been cast out of. Color in a couple other places on the figure, and it really makes that black and teal color scheme work real hard. Same with the windows. I like the pink on there. If you want, you can sort of combine the axe and the sword into one big swax. I don't know what you'd call it. Maybe it's just a giant ass unwieldy, poorly balanced sword, but it is kind of neat looking. I do know that this whole figure is just a repaint of the G2 Laser Prime that was released in the Legacy line that just dropped, but I didn't bother picking that figure up because I already have 2 red and blue classic Primes, and that's really all I need. But paint them black and teal with pink windows and take my money, Hasbro. Also interesting to note that this is the first figure I've played with that is an official Hasbro release since the very first little guy. Legs are pretty simple on this guy. You fold in those cans, you flip out his feet. It's the same thing we've done with all the previous ones. Until the top half of the transformation that things get real interesting, because this is the only long nose version of Prime that I have. This is actually my second time trying to transform this guy from robot to truck mode, and I'm trying to do it on camera and without instructions, because clearly I like to make things as difficult for myself as possible. Just ask any of my 3 ex-wives. and anyway, so back to this transformation. Once you get up to the top, it deviates almost entirely from the previous Primes. The arms don't swing out the same way. You have this whole faux chest that sort of unfolds and creates a Prime look from a long nose cab, which I thought was pretty interesting. The way the top goes together, where you have a bunch of panels sort of locking into place to create a solid mass, reminds me a lot of the Studio Series Prime's legs, although I think it works a little bit better up here because you're just making a big box, basically. Works out all right. And the pink and the teal highlights against the black really pop. I think of all my primes, this one's color scheme might be my favorite. It's just a really well-painted figure. Now, clearly, I can't get the hands out on my own because my hands are too big for the little hands, but I didn't wait as long to use a tool, so maybe I can learn. The way the forearms work on this is kind of weird. I'm used to like a flap, and then you flip the hand out of the larger piece, but it's not too dissimilar from the Earthrise Seeker mode. Yeah, similar. They do a similar thing with the hands. And I do like that it doesn't leave any hollow spots. So let's turn this waist around and flip these knee pads down for another little spritz of that teal. Get the shoulder launchers moved into place. I wasn't sure how I felt about these big ass shoulder launchers, but I've come around on them. And that head sculpt is absolutely magnificent. Last thing last, pop the cab back on, and there we go. Speedia 500 G2 Black Convoy. Or maybe he's actually Scourge. I'm not entirely sure. I'll leave that to bigger Transformers fans and gatekeepers of all things canon to sort out. I just think he's really cool looking. Especially that head sculpt. Like, it's absolutely beautiful. Maybe one day I'll figure out the camera well enough so you guys can see it. In any case, I hope you've enjoyed watching me fumble with these 5 dark, sad boys. I certainly had fun doing it. But let's see if we can't throw some weapons on them. Maybe get like a glamour shot group pick. There we go. And yeah, he's dual-wielding Megatrons. So what?
Excuse me, sirs. Sirs.
How can I help you, little Stunticon?
This may seem kind of strange, but let me be your arm. Let me be your arm. I'll climb up and stick my combiner port into your...
Whoa, slow down. Your what?
A port that's like a little knob, and I stick it in your,
Sounds freaky. I'm in.
We now return to the Transformers.